we're moving on to diagramming a passive 8. So with a passive 8, there are actually two different options that you have. So I'm going to show you this over the course of 2 short videos. Our example sentence is going to be, the school nurse gave Mr. Doherty a good scolding for his oppressive stink toe. All right, so let's change this into passive voice. And so that would turn into Mr. Doherty was given a good scolding for his oppressive stink toe by the school nurse. So let's show on a diagram how we actually got there. And so let's do our active voice. So I'm going to put my active voice up here. So I'm going to do this once again in skeletal form. I think it's just important to see the 4 most important parts. So I can see that nurse is my subject. I don't usually like using this. Well, I guess I will. So nurse is my subject. My action verb is gave. Changing up my colors here for us. Anticipating a direct object. And so the nurse is not giving Mr. Doherty, but she's giving a scolding. So I'm going to put my direct object here. I'll put him in green, which would be scolding. And then my indirect object, she's giving a scolding to Mr. Doherty. And we'll put him in this nice pink color. So here's Mr. Doherty. The dumb man's right there. All right. So our main sentence basically is the nurse gave Mr. Doherty scolding, or the nurse gave scolding to Mr. Doherty. So this is what we have in a pattern 8. All right. Ta-da. Pattern 8, active voice. When I change this into passive voice, we have a couple different choices. Remember, with the word nurse is our subject has to then slide down and turn into a by prep phrase. So that's automatic. So I know that by nurse is going to turn into a by prep phrase. So there she is. I know my verb is going to then come down. I don't think it's the same color. My verb is going to come down and increase by 1. So I'm going to change this into either was given or were given. So I'm going to do was given. I just know that's what it's going to be, but sure, it could be either one. So my verb has increased by 1 by dropping down. Now, when I do the crisscrossing, remember the subject comes down here and turns into a by prep phrase. Now, the crisscrossing motion is now bringing over an object. But you actually have 2 choices. You have 2 different objects in a pattern 8. You have the direct object and the indirect object. Unlike in a pattern 7, you only had 1 choice. You had to bring over the direct object. Now you can actually bring over the indirect object if you wanted to. So option 1, we're going to call him option 1, is to bring over the indirect object. So let's bring Mr. Doherty to the front. So when Mr. Doherty comes to the front, we're going to put him here as our subject. And the thing is, Mr. Doherty moved, the nurse moved, gave turned into was given, but scolding never moved. So if scolding never moved, then don't move it. So that means that there's still a straight line. It's the worst straight line ever. My goodness, Marsh. All right, there's still a straight line, and then the word scolding is just going to sit there. He didn't get a chance to go anywhere. So if you decide not to move the direct object, but to move the indirect object, then the direct object still stays there. So you end up saying Mr. Doherty was given a scolding by the school nurse. And that's what we have as option 1. So once again, for a pattern 8, you have 2 options. And the first option is to move the indirect object to the front. Move the indirect object to the front. Let's pause our video and let's come back and take a look at option 2.